Hi, my name is Trevor Teisman from Kbandstraining.com. Today I've got an interesting discussion for you to help you understand which leg resistance band style is going to be best for you. We've got Kbands that are generally going to be more speed and agility or long format cardio style training. We've got the infinity loop bands that fall in two different categories. You've got rubber or you've got fabric based style. Let's dive into each one of these so I can explain to you what would be best for your training. Where K-bands are going to shine is going to be high ballistic movements where you need resistance to stay in place. Imagine if you're sprinting, if you're doing ladder drills, if you're having lots of high impact exercises and you need those bands to stay in place. K-bands, speed and strength, leg resistance bands cannot be beat. There's no better product to do this with. Now, I know a lot of people utilize mini bands for these exercises, but they have terrible, terrible consequences. When you run, when you do high impact exercises, they're always moving up and down your legs. They cannot provide the same amount of resistance that K-bands can. So if you are a high level athlete and you need to do big time explosive movements, K-bands are going to be the choice for you. If you're doing P90X, fitness-based 20-30 minute cardio style workouts, K-bands are also going to play a major role in those workouts. You can do your lunges, jumping jacks, all of these body weight style movements with K-bands on, which is going to increase your heart rate because of the added resistance, and you're going to get better results doing those using that type of resistance. Now, you may be asking yourself, why would you buy a loop band? And I would say the loop bands have a very good place in your training as well. If you're doing station-based work and you have large groups, a loop band is really easy to move from section to section. So say you're doing skill-specific work as a football team. You're moving from station to station. You want to add a little bit of core and hip training in the middle of this. You're not going to be utilizing resistance or weights at every one of these stations, but you may want one station that's going to focus on this. You've got a shoulder stability station, and then maybe you've got your glute walks or walking lunges station. It's got to be quick. We got to turn it over fast. So there is where your mini bands are going to be excellent. It's not a high ballistic movement that's going to have the bands moving all over the place. It's not going to be a long distance run where they may break. It's going to be a very controlled side to side glute walk where you get great activation and you can drop them off and the next group can go. The mini bands are also utilized on specific activation exercises. If you're wanting to activate hip flexors or do simple glute style workouts with an individual exercise, once again, the mini band does excel here. You don't need to pull something big out of your bag like the K-band, strap on each knee and clip them across for if you're just adding them into a fire hydrant based exercise. So the mini bands can play a big role here. If you find yourself doing these single exercises, then your choice may be, are you looking at the rubbers or the flex fabric? Now, there's a vast difference between the two. The major one is going to be how resistance is applied. The infinity style bands is a rubber-based band that can be one length and the thickness can change to add or subtract resistance. On the other hand, you've got the infinity flex bands. This is a fabric-based training material that is much more durable. You could have one set of the flex fabric bands and have them for the rest of your life. But the downside is going to be is that the way that resistance is added is by shortening the length of the material. So in our Infinity Flex Band kit, it comes with 4 different levels. Our lightest one is much longer than the heaviest one. They get shorter as they get stronger. Now, this can be a problem if you're a very small athlete or someone with narrow hips because you're not going to be able to utilize that lighter resistance. Now, this may not be a problem. You'd have to try it and really know whether or not your strength level is beyond the lightest one or not. But that is the biggest problem with the flex style fabric is the difference in lengths to add or subtract resistance. The rubber mini bands, on the other hand, are going to be a standard width and adds thickness to give you more or less resistance. With that being said, you may think that the Infinity Flex bands are going to be your choice. I would say that youth athletes would be far better off utilizing the mini rubber bands due to the lengths. As you start shortening the Infinity Flex fabric, it gets very difficult to move. So your smaller athletes with those more narrow hips are not going to be able to utilize those strong bands. So look at it like this. The Infinity rubber kind of moves up in resistance as it gets to level 7, and then you're going to kind of get towards that tier where the fabric-based bands get in there and can take you to a higher level of resistance. So the Flex fabric can produce way more resistance, but is not as applicable for younger style athletes and or fitness people. So if you're stronger, have wider hips, then the flex material is going to last way longer and provide you more resistance. If you have a smaller hip line, need a little less resistance or some more variety, then the rubber based is going to be applicable for you. I personally use each of these when I'm training athletes or people working for their fitness level. I also use them independently in my own training, but Kbands, of course, is a far superior product to each of those items for doing a magnitude of different exercises. The biggest comparison is how fast or how long do you have to put them on. If you're working over 20 minutes in them, Kbands is your choice. If you're doing just a simple station where you're doing a glute walk, Kbands still gets the job done better than the other items. But if you want it for speedy, quick movements through a lot of different people, your Flex fabric or your Infinity rubber is going to be a better option. If you need any of these 3 types of bands, head to kbandstraining.com. We've got all sorts of exercise equipment there that can help you achieve your goals.